Chris Dimbit, also known as Phony Bennet, now joins us. Chris, thanks so much for coming on.
Man, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited. I appreciate you guys reaching out.
Chris, do you have a favorite tweet or a few favorite tweets?
Man, people have asked me that before, and there's not. But one thing that I'll tell you, the tweets that I like in general are ones that end up getting very little traction.
Right.
It's so weird, and that was something that frequently I found when I was performing stand-up comedy. That the jokes that I'm thinking, okay, this is very clever. This is a funny joke, and the audience is like, huh, like, yeah, okay, that's all right. And then sometimes the more simple stuff was the stuff that gets the best reaction. I'm like, why are you guys laughing at that? So my favorite tweets are more than likely not the ones that have a lot of retweets and favorites and stuff. But none come to mind. I mean, early on there was one I had that I think got like 20 favorites, which at the time was like, oh my goodness, people really like this tweet. It was about a UTS, being on the UTS driver or being on the UTS bus, asking me if I had a transfer and wanted to punch him or something. I don't remember how it was worded, but I like that. And it's like, okay, a lot of people like that. And that was good. But as it grew, frequently, I mean, you get, with comedy, the jokes that have the broadest appeal, of course, are going to be the most successful. And, a lot of times for me, the ones I enjoy are a little bit more esoteric.
Do you have like your boys from your years at UVA that you guys have these inside jokes, whether it's UTS, whether it's Bryant Hall or wherever, like it's funny to them? Like I talked about eating at, what's that place called? Bonnie Castle or somewhere, and something, and you guys would know? No.
Not really. I mean, there's some folks, from my time that are on there, but they're not always
awake.
Right. It's just, it's such a weird crew. And at this point, I mean, the audience is so broad, and so much more diverse. I mean, I think, when I had 100 or 200 followers, it was a really dedicated group of Virginia basketball fans, and probably my mom. And now it's expanded out, and, there's folks from other schools that follow and stuff. And, it's where you start getting that observer effect. It's like, okay, now, Terry Sullivan, when she was president, she followed me. And when she followed me, I'm like, oh crap, that's like a lot of pressure. Now, like UVA's president is listening to what I'm saying. And now I'm really feel like I have to be careful. And it's hard to kind of get over that and get past that.
Did you go into your drafts and like, I better delete this dick pic. This probably this one.
This is never going out. It's weird. I mean, it's, but and I assume, any, entertainers or artists or anything like that are creating something for mass consumption kind of have to deal with that. It's like you start being concerned about how people are going to receive it versus just doing what you want to do, and it changes it changes your craft. And I say craft like I'm doing something high in my it's a fake Twitter account for a basketball team.
Let's keep it real.
Yeah.
But is there, so also on that note, is there an end? Do you see an end to this? Is there some point where you're going to like hang up the fake Tony Bennett jacket?
I mean, that's kind of the problem. I've been looking for an exit strategy for a while.
Okay.
The first year I did
this is not going to help for sure.
This may help actually.
The exit
We'll see if I'm down to like 10,000 followers after this comes out. The first year that I did it, I had this plan in my mind that wasn't fully fleshed out, but I wanted this character, Phony Bennet, to go through like this decline and eventually end in his death. And it would be more like an art project. Like when I started, I didn't have that idea, but then I've got a few hundred followers. I'm like, okay, they're interested in this, but I'm not going to maintain this. So let's kill off Phony Bennet. How am I going to kill off Phony Bennet? He's going to go mad, and this is what'll do it. And I had these ideas. And then things started changing. We got a podcast, and
then you won the fucking national championship. Now
right. Well, this was well before that. I mean, we still weren't threatening for that, but we had Seth Greenberg on the podcast, and that's what kind of changed things for me. Like, shit, I can't just, I can't just throw this away. I thought it would be really cool to kill off the character of Phony Bennet, then completely delete the account, and then it would be like, did that happen? Was he in, you know, I thought that would be kind of a neat thing to bookend it and wrap it up. But then it got more popular, and, you know, of course, popularity ruins all of us. And so I couldn't bring myself to kill off Phony.
Speaking of Seth Greenberg, he reached out to you thinking it was Tony Bennett.
No, he actually, so Seth, so College Game Day.
Please tell me that's true.
No, he didn't think I was Tony, but College Game Day, and I play disc golf most every Sunday. I've got a regular group, and you know, we go out there, and it's a great hippie sport. And so we go out there, and we're playing, and I'm checking Twitter on the tee pad, and Seth Greenberg had tweeted that they're going to be in Charlottesville for game day the following weekend. So I fire off a tweet without giving it a lot of thought. I was like, well, if you're going to be in Charlottesville, you got to come on my podcast. I'll make you famous. You know, I mean, of course, you know, at that point he was doing okay for himself. So like 2 minutes later, I get a DM from him, and he's like, send me your phone number. I was like, okay. So I texted him my phone number. Not 5 minutes later, I'm getting a call from him on the disc golf course, and I answered. He's like, hey, Phony, it's Seth Greenberg. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, hold on, guys, I got to throw, but I got to take this. And so he's asking me about UVA, like traditions and stuff, and some of the terminology, and you know, really getting into it. And that's where he agreed to come on the podcast for us. And for me, it was like, okay, well, this is maybe bigger than just these, you know, jokes I've been tossed around. Maybe, you know, I can get some notice. And that's what probably kind of ruined me, you know, for this, because all of a sudden I started to feel like, okay, maybe I should continue this and not just continue the arc of Phony going crazy and killing himself or whatever I was going to do. I hadn't really finalized those plans, but it was just crazy. I'm like, you know, this is a guy I cheered against when he was coaching Virginia Tech. You know, now, you know, he's just calling me in the middle of a disc golf round. And the thing about Seth, like, I immediately saw why he was a good recruiter. Like, he just immediately like put me at ease. Like I felt like this was someone I'd known for a while. Like, I mean, he's just a really nice guy. And, you know, I still have him in my phone. I sent a picture. He doesn't call me. He doesn't call. He doesn't write.
Call him now.
Yes, yeah, call him now.
You're on our podcast.
I don't know if you can see that. That's the picture I have.
Oh, that's awesome.
Of him. Just in case he ever calls, I want to see that picture come up on my screen. But I mean, he was just a super nice guy, and he did our show, I think, twice. And you know, obviously it brought a lot of attention to the program, kind of through the podcast and getting out there and stuff, and kind of gave a respectability that I couldn't earn on my own as a fake coach, and that probably wasn't deserved, but you know, I wasn't going to argue about it. So no, he's a really good guy, and again, you know, he's one of those guys I enjoy listening to, because he'll sometimes get into a little more of the X's and O's than some of the other talking heads, and I always enjoy listening to that.
Yeah, I just agree or disagree with him. Whatever, I like him a lot. He's one of the guys I could listen to.
Yeah, Virginia fans get pissed easily when someone criticizes the program or says that. I think for the most part he's been very fair in his criticisms of stuff, and you know, he lays it out there, and so
it's not his fault. It's not his fault if he's wrong. It's just
right.
If he can speak well, he speaks well. I'm just always right. So
right.
By the way, I think a great little short skit or story or whatever would be you if you had killed off Phony Bennet, I should say. So you got no pressure. You can work on that in your off time.
Yeah, you're saying I should kill Phony Bennet now?
No. Back
to the story.
The story. What it would have looked like.
Right.
Like, did he bore himself to death because of their pace? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I had the idea that Phony would kill himself, which, I mean, is probably a bad way to go.
Yeah,
It probably would have been better to have,
not the most DC thing.
But it was, you know, I didn't, you know, I really visualized it more like, okay, this is going to be like a performance art project. Like, people have seen this. Okay, now they've made him, you know, he's made you laugh, hopefully, and now he's going to be dead and just disappear, and there'd be no trace of him left on Twitter. Like, wouldn't that be cool? And then, you know, like everyone else, I got a little bit of attention, and it ruined me.
So you said, I think I read, tell me if I might be wrong, You said Phony Bennet is a guy trying to be a guy trying to be a guy. Did you take it? Did you do like a triple negative makes a whatever?
No, that's actually a riff on from Tropic Thunder from the Robert Downey Jr. character when he's like, I'm the dude pretending to be a dude pretending to be another dude, and so I said So I'm the dude pretending to be a dude, kind of pretending to be another dude, because I gave up long ago on trying to tweet as Tony Bennett. Like that's a fool's errand. I mean, and obviously I never tried to say the things Tony would actually say. It was always because the original description was saying the things that Tony Bennett is too smart to say. And so I kind of gave myself the out there, but because I don't really pretend to be it, I worry that I don't want people following and thinking, okay, this is actually saying fake Tony Bennett stuff, and this is where the humor is going to come from, because that's not what I do. So I feel like the name on the account's pretty misleading these days. I feel bad. I let a lot of people down.
How has your Twitter account changed, or has it changed over the last several years?
I think I'd like to think that it's become nicer. I mean, as I've aged, I've definitely mellowed out, and I have a daughter who's 15 now, and you just, as you get older, you come to see the world a little bit differently. And, certainly for me, sports I've changed the way I view them. They're just as valuable to me as they've ever been, but I try not to get angry, about things. I mean, I was much more stoic after the UMBC loss than a lot of folks were. And I think a lot of folks were maybe disappointed in my reaction because I wasn't angry. I wasn't critical. It was more like, that's what happens, and trying to figure out the whys and all that. But so I used to go after the players more, the opposing players and the coaches. I would criticize the academics of the other schools and stuff, and I'm just not about that anymore. I think I've probably changed more as a person, and that's led to changes in the account. So the evolution of the account has probably been more personal for me than trying to say, okay, this is the direction I want it to go.
So is the direction and the trajectory of the character, is the success of Virginia basketball, what's the relationship?
I mean, like I don't kid myself that I'm successful on Twitter because Virginia basketball is successful. Like if Tony Bennett had a losing record and were unattractive, like I would have like 3 followers.
Not in that order.
Right. A lot of people follow me because they think Tony Bennett's hot. A lot, I have and I'm whatever. I'm fine with that. And they eventually one day they can meet me and be severely disappointed. If Tony weren't winning games like he does, I know the account wouldn't be as popular. And I think I'd probably still be doing it. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. When I got to 100 followers, it was like, oh, can you believe this? This is really awesome. And, I just think it's neat that there's people that want to listen to what I have to say. And it kind of gives me an outlet. I don't go on stage much anymore. I maybe go on stage once a year when I really get that itch and get to, decide to go up there. So this is like, if I have something that I think might be funny to say, it's an opportunity to do it. But the audience is the size that it is because of how good the team is. And, it was so funny. I mean, I'm sure you could chart like my follower count during the season. And once the team this past season, really found groove and got on that winning streak, that 11-2 streak or whatever it was, it's in the season, my follower count was increasing, greatly. And that's not because I was tweeting better, it's because more people were paying attention to Virginia basketball. And I'm okay with that. People, the followers will come and go. And, there's a lot of folks that have followed for a long time that I get to interact with. And that's where I really enjoy it, is, actually chatting with different people and stuff. So, if for some reason the team didn't have the success, I'd still be doing it. I'm not going to be like, I'm giving up Twitter because, Virginia basketball sucks this year. I mean, that's not why I'm doing it. And, nor am I going to start just, hating on the team, because I've been a Virginia basketball fan for a lot longer than Phony Bennet has existed. And, that's not going to change either.
And one more question on that. If, let's just say, a total hypothetical, Tony Bennett goes to another team and your follower account 10 X's, are you doing it? Are you done?
No, that's the one place where I've thought that, I would just definitely have to, bring it into it. And it wouldn't be against Tony Bennett. I mean, if Tony Bennett, he said before, he has these dreams of coaching in the NBA and stuff. And while I'd like to think that's changed, I mean, people are going to do what they want. And I'm in no position to second guess anyone's choices, but I don't think I would continue the account. I mean, I certainly don't see myself as, suddenly being the fake account for the,
LA Lakers.
The Lakers or the Mavericks or something. It's just, I'm not interested in that, and I don't think it would really make sense just to switch over to a phony account for whoever Virginia's replacement coach was either. I think it would just be best just to kind of end it and walk away and find some other outlet.
That was my next question. That was my next question for Dougie. Phony Jeff Jones, what's he tweeting?
Fuck you, and fuck you.
I have talked about that before. If I started this as a fake Dave Lato,
really funny.
Yeah, phony. Our phony Pete Gillen is just regular Pete Gillen. So
yeah, phony Pete Gillen. Yeah, you can't do a phony Pete Gillen, but I have given thought to phony Dave Lato, and it would be a lot more F-bombs. Which I mean, even one I've never, I curse so rarely on the program or on the Twitter, and and I really have to self-censor because, I'm not proud to say my language isn't nearly as clean as what I use on Twitter, but it goes back to when Tony, said be respectful, and I try to do that. And it also, it does make it a little bit more challenging to be creative when you can't just resort to profanity and whatnot. I mean, back, doing comedy, it's a lot tougher to be a clean comic than to be a dirty comic. And, what they always said is you can always make a clean joke dirty, but you can't make a dirty joke clean. And it's definitely a challenge. So I kind of look at it like the idea of a haiku. I mean, the restrictive format forces your creativity and it doesn't let you just be lazy.
And so outside of Eddie Murphy, outside of Eddie Murphy, who's your favorite comedian? Sorry, let me go back.
Outside of, there's guys. So Eddie Murphy was the guy that made me want to be a comedian, but stylistically, I'm nothing like him. George Carlin had the intellectual stuff that I aspired to. I definitely like that. I always thought Bob Newhart has the best timing and delivery of any comic you'll ever watch. You watch Bob Newhart, and he will do more with a pause than most guys can do with a punchline. He was just brilliantly funny. Then a lot of the guys that I like are guys that most people haven't heard of. There's so many great comics that are on the circuit that just for whatever reason never got their big break, but they are incredibly funny. Brett Leake, who lives in Charlottesville now, he helped me a lot when I was a young comic. He's a squeaky clean comic, and I mean he's done the Tonight Show 6 or 7 times now, I think. He's hilarious. Jeff Caldwell's a guy from New York that I love working with. Brilliantly funny, completely clean, and those are the guys that I watch, and I was always like, no matter how good I get to be, I will never be as good as those guys. And it was really almost demotivating watching these guys perform, because I know like I wish I could be that good, but I can't. And it's the clean guys that did that, because that's where comedy really becomes difficult. Profanity, when used well, can be such a great tool to enhance humor. And the guys that can get away without it and without working blue, I'm just so impressed by.
Seinfeld does it too, right?
I think your Twitter challenge is remarkable, because it's usually the inverse, where people get to hide behind a name and say whatever they want and do whatever they want. And here you are. You've got to tweet these. You've got to be a lot more responsible, right? And respectful.
Right. Oh, there's a lot of self-censoring, especially, when I'm 3 bourbons deep into a game and the score is tied, and there's like, okay, I can type out how I'm really feeling right now, or I can try to say something clever. And a lot of those moments, I just don't say anything at all, because that's the easier route. But
it seems like a little therapeutic too.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. Right?
It is. I mean,
you're your own therapist.
Right. I mean, sports have always been therapeutic. Sports have been that escape for me.
But that challenge of you saying, oh man, I want to tweet this and attack somebody or say something disrespectful and use a profane word. And now you've got to say, oh man, I'm going to do some deep thinking, and I've got to be more respectful.
And it does. It forces you to stretch your brain, and it forces your creativity. That's that's why I always think it's like a haiku. Is the limitation is what ends up becoming freeing and forcing the creativity. So, and that's one of the reasons that I haven't changed it, because, I want to, I'd prefer it to be something, that's thought of as clever rather than it's thought of as profane. I mean, I have more respect for comics that can do that. And, so, whether or not I can be as good as those other guys, remains to be seen, but it's a better goal for me to set than something that's easily reached by. I know I can make a laugh by dropping F-bombs and stuff and making dirty jokes, and occasionally I'll go there, but not with the F-bombs, but occasionally I'll work a little bit blue, but hey, I don't want to go too far. I don't want to alienate the audience, but I also don't want to make it easy on myself, because dirty jokes are easy, and I want the challenge.
That makes me think. How many Twitter accounts do you actually have out there? Since it's so easy for you to do Phony Bennet.
just two.
You have like 4 or 5 that we don't know about.
No, I've
Phony Doug Smith out there.
Yeah, people have suggested other ones. Hey, it's been great over the years, because somebody suggested like a Brian Faux-Connor, and different UVA coaches have been suggested over time. But no, the only 2 Twitter accounts that I actually operate are me, or Phony, and me. And as I said, the real me has like 110 followers. The fake me is way more interesting.
We'll put that in the description.
Don't follow. I never tweet on that. I don't even know what's happening with that account. I may not still have control of it. Maybe Tony has control of that at this point. And
mowed the grass, drinking a lemonade.
Right, which is most of social media. Locked in the house with the kids again today.
Making spaghetti.
Was there a point when you saw an increase in followers? Or was it gradual?
Yeah, it ends up being, and I guess it's all kind of proportional. So my first tweet was actually a reply to Streaking the Lawn, which is now Brian's account. And so my first dozen or so tweets, and man, when I got up to like 2 dozen followers, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. People actually like this. And then it's 100. I remember the next thing I tracked was like getting to 2,000. Like that seemed like a really big deal. And now that like the follower count is cool, I'm not going to pretend that I'm not aware of how many folks follow it, but really I'm what keeps me coming back is the interactions with folks and stuff like this. I mean, if I were just screaming into the void, no matter how many people were listening, I don't think I would still be doing it. But the neat thing is, I haven't made any money off doing Twitter. I've got a free T-shirt and a free bottle of bourbon out of it, I think, or maybe 2 free T-shirts, because UMBC sent me a T-shirt. UMBC Athletics. They sent me a little care package with a T-shirt and a UMBC flag.
How'd that come about?
Because I was, I'd really, and after the championship, and their Twitter account was so cool about how they handled things. And after the championship, they were playing lacrosse or something. And I was pulling for them, because it's like, hey, Virginia's, redeemed themselves and all that. And so I tweeted something like, I'm going to have to buy some gear eventually. And they saw the tweet somehow, and they end up, he DM'd me. He's like, hey man, we got you, send me your address. So they sent me that. I don't know where I did have a flag somewhere around here. I don't know what I'd ever do with the UMBC flag, but I wear the T-shirt, sometimes, and it's cool because it's such a part of the story of that. Like, I don't think you can look at Virginia's championship without looking at the UMBC game. Not to talk about basketball and take time away from from things, but and so yeah, so I think I've gotten 2 t-shirts and a bottle of bourbon. But getting opportunities like this, like getting to talk hoops with Seth Greenberg and do folks podcasts and stuff, like that's been a lot of fun. And my daughter, because of this, has gotten to meet a lot of the players, and she loves that. So it's presented some neat opportunities for me in my life.
We got
that I
that
wouldn't have otherwise
I've
had.
got a UMBC shirt right in my background. If you don't see that one, we did that.
I see it. Yeah,
back.
it's framed up. I'm trying to think where that flag is.
It might be right next to the basketball sign. Up there, the championship basketball.
Are the Rocky photo?
Apollo 3 on the background.
Do people actually see the video on this? So how do you guys release this?
Yeah, we'll do both.
Okay. Because I think people will be confused because Mark got on and I think he thought I was so dedicated to this that I was actually had recreated my office in the style of Tony Bennett's actual office, which at a point it gets a little bit weird, Mark.
A little bit
borderline creepy.
I try not to go that far.
You said it, not us.
Well, that's why I'm saying I never introduced myself as Phony. I've never said hi, I'm Phony, because that just I can't bring myself to do
staying away from basketball, but not really. Where were you for the Final Four last year?
What? Who do I think was in?
Where were you? No, where were you?
Oh, I was sitting in front of my computer. I'd really, and my best friend, he lives in London, and he was like, "Man, let's fly to Minneapolis. Let's do this." And so I was looking at flights and stuff, and I really went back and forth, man. And I came so close to pulling the trigger, and I finally was like, "Man, I just don't want to do it," because unfortunately, I was, part of it was like, okay, it's going to be tough to tweet, and that's part of my experience. That's part of my enjoyment of the game is kind of interacting with all these other fans in that way, and then there's also the idea, man, what if we go there and we lose the first game? This is money I could be spending on merch, because I bought so much merch after the fact. I got a lot of championship merch. So I ended up not going, and I really don't have regrets about it. I mean, I know it would have been cool, but I'm also one of those folks. I like watching the game on TV. Yeah. I like being able to
that's fair.
Get an instant replay whenever I want. Like, wait a minute.
And you sound like you probably have your spot. You have, like you said, your computer, the TV, and
yeah, I bought at some point this season. I bought a 75-inch TV. I'm like, screw it. I'm gonna get a big ass TV, and it's gonna be ridiculous, and I'm gonna sit way too close to it, and
be in the game.
It's really improved the game viewing, and unfortunately, I know that's one of the things that athletic departments and professional teams worry about, is that people enjoy the TV experience more than being at the game. But I mean, I get that, but I'm still a season ticket holder, so I'm paying for tickets for every game, whether I'm there or not. But I do like being able to relax. The bourbon is plentiful, and I always have several options. And if I need to run to the bathroom, I'm not missing any action, I can just hit pause. So that's where I was. My daughter came over to watch the game with me. She fell asleep during the championship game. And I'm like trying to wake her up like near the end of regulation. I'm like, wait a minute. They're coming back. Like at first I'm like, okay, it looks like we might lose this, so it's okay if she's sleeping through it. And then I'm like, no, wake up. And she wouldn't wake, well, you guys know how probably too.
We've seen the replay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on CBS 2 Sundays ago.
It would have been cool to be there, no doubt. But I'd be lying if I said one of the things that made it a little bit easier was thinking that Tony's going to be back here. I'm going to have another chance to do this. This didn't seem like a fluke to me, that the way he's developed this team, the way he's built this program, there will be other opportunities where the timing is a little bit better for me.